Oh, hello. We're going to read a story today, a story from the Bible. This story is called The Dreamer Who Saved the World. It's the story of Joseph. Abraham had a son named Isaac, and Isaac had a son named Jacob, and Jacob had 12 sons. 12. Can you count to 12? Probably. Joseph was Jacob's favorite son. You might think it's a bad idea for a dad to have a favorite son. Well, you'd be right. Jacob treated Joseph better than his other brothers, giving him more presents all the time. His favorite present was a fancy rainbow robe. Everyone who saw it knew that Joseph was the favorite. It made Joseph feel special. But it made Joseph's brothers feel jealous and angry. On top of that, God had given Joseph special dreams about how he, Joseph, would be in charge one day of everything. This made Joseph's brothers even more jealous. They started to hate Joseph. And one day, they decided to put an end to Joseph, his dreams, and his rainbow robe. Joseph's brothers attacked him, tore off his robe, and sold him as a servant. Then they lied to their father, telling him that Joseph was dead. Meanwhile, Joseph was taken all the way to Egypt, where he became a slave. But it got worse. Joseph was blamed for something he didn't even do, and then he ended up in prison. Then it got worse again. Oh man, poor Joseph. God used a dream to tell Joseph that one of his fellow prisoners was about to be freed. But as soon as he got out, the fellow prisoner forgot all about Joseph. For years, Joseph sat in prison alone. You see, Joseph had told the prisoner that God had told him that he was about to be freed. He said, when you get out of prison, don't forget me. But that fellow prisoner, when he was free, totally forgot. Oh man. But even though Joseph sat in prison alone, he wasn't quite alone. God was with Joseph. And even when it was hard, even when his brothers sold him, even when he was thrown into prison, and even when he was forgotten by his fellow prisoner, God had not forgotten him. God was with him the whole time. In fact, God was going to use Joseph to save his own family. God was going to use Joseph to save the world. Look at the next page. God gave the king of Egypt a confusing and scary dream. Oof. And one of his servants, in fact, the very same guy who had been in prison with Joseph before, who'd forgotten about him, suddenly remembered and said, "Oh, king, I know a guy who is good with dreams." They got Joseph, and Joseph explained the dream to the king, that there would be a famine. People wouldn't have enough food. And so the king put Joseph in charge. And just like that, Joseph became a prince of the whole land. Now the famine came. It was quite bad. So bad, in fact, that back home, Joseph's brothers, who had sold him as a servant all those years earlier, they were starving. And so they came to Egypt to buy food. And wouldn't you know it, they ended up before Joseph, the prince, and they didn't even recognize him at this stage. The last time they'd seen him, he was a servant being sold. Now he stood before them as a prince. They didn't recognize him at all after all these years. Joseph couldn't help from crying. He was so happy. "Brothers," he said, "come closer. Don't you see? It's me, Joseph. I know you're scared, but you don't have to be. You wanted to hurt me, but God had other plans. A good one. You thought I was gone and alone, but God was with me the whole time. He sent me here to Egypt to save all of us." Joseph and his brothers rejoiced because God had saved all of them. And together they moved to Egypt. The family grew and grew, and Joseph grew older. And just before Joseph died, he told his family, "God's been faithful to us. He saved us. But Egypt isn't our home. promise me that our children and our children's children won't stay here, but we will follow God. And sadly, Joseph's family didn't listen to him. They stayed in Egypt. And the longer they stayed in Egypt, the further away God seemed from them. What an interesting story. Because they stayed in Egypt, God felt far away. So all of Joseph's children began to hope and pray, God, will you come back to stay?